Good morning, everybody. Orange here with another War of the Visions video, and today we are going to do an elemental tier list for Global War of the Visions, which is something I haven't done since January, almost 3 months ago at this point. In that time, the game has changed dramatically. We have sub-vision cards in the game, which boosted a ton of elements viability. We have trust stones in the game, which just boosted everything, really. We are in the 2-year anniversary, which means the FF6 collaboration has dropped 3 really strong units on us. It's a lot. It's a lot. So the game has changed in a big way. We need to revisit this list and answer a question I get asked all the time, which is what element is the strongest, or how strong is whatever element? I'm going to give you my opinion on that now. The first opinion I'm going to give, though, I'm going to go to the game and I'm going to look at my Guild Wars offensive teams for my guild. We have wind, we have lightning, we have a little mixed element, water, fire, light, fire, wind, ice, light, water. There's some earth teams down here if we scroll down. We have some earth players in here. You can play just about anything right now. All the elements feel playable, and it's really cool. Like, this is one of the few times in the global game where I think you're not trolling no matter what element you're playing, even at the highest level. Like, we're a top 20 guild, and we're going to win this Guild Wars today with a very rainbow-looking roster. I actually also think that rainbow teams in general, like mixed element teams, got a big lift from specifically the sub-vision card addition to the game. I'm going to rank those as well. Let's talk about the tiers. What do the individual tiers mean, in my opinion? D tier is going to be unplayable. Like, not good enough, you're trolling if you are running it kind of tier. I'm not putting anything there. There's just no element in the game right now that you're trolling if you're trying to play. C tier, that is going to be playable, in my opinion. Like, good enough to be played, but I would, maybe try to play something else if you're really serious about crushing high-level competition. B tier is going to be good, A tier is going to be great, and S tier is going to be that, like, middle school teacher saying where you tell kids, hey kids, be better than great, be the best of the best. That's going to be S tier. And while it's an eye-rolling kind of thing to say to a middle school kid, there is an element in this game that is absolutely S tier, and we'll get there here in a second. In the bottom right of the screen, you do see the January 2022 rankings, right? That's where I had stuff at the beginning of the year. Let's see where they fall now, and I want to start with Earth. Now, Earth was an element that I had in A tier at the start of the year. I think Earth is stronger than it was before, but comparatively to the other elements, as everything else has been lifted, I think Earth did not quite get lifted as much. So I'm going to drop it from great to good, but it's like the top of good. Earth is still essentially what it was in January. You have a bunch of really high HP, hard to kill units with courages, re-raises that do a lot of damage. They're thick boys and girls who come at you and try and kill you before you can kill them. It's kind of a straightforward element to play. Sub-vision cards, although unlocking the ability to make some Earth-like quasi-tanks into real tanks by equipping like Hate in a sub-vision card slot, Earth still feels kind of the same to me as it did before. Super playable, thematically really cool. I really like what Earth does, but it does lack some kind of like dedicated support unit like a Yuna or Halloween Little Leela. So I'm going to put it in top of the good tier in B. Next up, we have Wind. Now, Wind was an S tier element for me last time I did this tier list. I'm going to have it fall down to A. Not because, and listen to me, Wind lovers, because I'm a Wind lover too, not because I think Wind got worse. I don't think anything got worse. I think everything improved. I just think one element that used to be tied with Wind improved more than Wind did. So I'm going to let that element be alone in the S tier, and that means I got to drop Wind down to A. Wind has everything, though. If you really want to play Wind, you have great tank in June. You also have like one of the best MR tanks in the game in Dario. You have supports like Ayaka, Halloween Little Leela, magic damage units, Mary Moore, Halloween Little Leela again. You have great physical damaging units like Winter Luartha. Wind has everything you need. If you were like, I just want to be a dedicated Wind player, that's the goal of my account, you're set. You got a lot of things there to go for, and you're going to be feeling really good about yourself. So I'm going to drop Wind into A. and just kind of put it there. Now, I'm going to do a lot more talking about subvision cards when I get to the rainbow, and you can kind of see the rainbow starting to peek out from its hiding place over there. But okay, subvision cards elevated all elements. There we go. Next up, let's talk about light, and this one is the obvious S tier. It's S tier, and I'm going to put it in S tier by itself in this video. I think light got more of a boost than any other element in this game, and it could already do everything. Like, that's the crazy thing about light. You can play it almost however you want, right? Do you want to play what I call standard, where you run a tank and you run a damage dealer and you run a support? Okay, you can do that with light. Do you want to run the most meta team in the game right now, light evasion? You better believe you can do that, and you better believe that that super meta team got even stronger with the addition of Locke, who came with a super good TMR for evasion. With subvision cards and trust stones, you can make evasion even more evady. And Locke Elena, let me just tell you guys, if you run a guild and you're like, what kind of defensive wall can I build to instantly increase my guild's ranking by 50? Force everybody in your guild to have Starlight Elena and Locke. You can't actually do that. I know you can't do that. Everybody has Locke. Starlight Elena is a little bit harder to get, but we're seeing a ton of that in high-level guild wars. Light evasion walls, and they are tough. They are tough to deal with. Light is just super good. So it's going into S tier by itself. Those are kind of my thoughts about it, and I'm going to try to not go on super big tangents. Y'all know how strong light is. Think about PvE as well when you're talking about this tier list. Light Slash is not only great, it's really free to play friendly. Like, if you've started recently, like during the FF14 collaboration recently, Thancred, Lucio, Locke. Those are like our last 3 giveaway units, all light slashers. Mix that with any of the great light slashers that already are in the game. Oh my gosh, light's insane. Light's insane. Okay, next up, we've got Lightning. Lightning was in the A tier before. I'm going to keep Lightning in the A tier. I do think it is not quite as strong as Wind, but Lightning is amazing. It has 100% hit in it, and it has high accuracy moves in it from its most powerful units, right? So let's think about Lightning. What is it? You have a great tank in Charlotte, right? Who's a standard pool unit. Players can go after her if they want to. She can tank just about anything in the game. You have Cloud, you have Ibarra, you have Renan, you have 9S maybe is one of your most dedicated support units for Lightning. You do have a lot of time mage options in Lightning as well for some cool, quicken shenanigans for things like class matches or limited content. Lightning's really, really good, and I really kind of like what the Lightning meta is and has been for a while. Run a big tank, run 2 huge damage dealers, and go kill people with your tank kind of covering them. I don't think Lightning has changed a lot with the additions. I just think it's gotten stronger, so I'm going to keep it right behind Wind. Now, next up is Fire. When I did this video in January, it was my opinion that Fire was the worst element in Global. I had it in C tier, like I had it as playable, but you really had to have a lot to make Fire playable. I think Fire has easily jumped up there, and I'm actually going to throw Fire into just above, if I can make it happen. I'm going to throw it to above Earth. I'm going to throw it up a tier into B. I do still think you are a little pinched with options for Fire, but Terra did so much for this element, more than I thought she would. Like, I'm going to be honest. Fire in the game right now feels very, very strong. Maybe because there's so much evasion in the game, and because a lot of players have access to evasion, that Terra is maybe better in Global than she even was in JP, because we already had to deal with Starlight Elena. Like, that AoE 100% hit move with 6 uses, and she has her own vision card that buffs her. Terra is strong. She boosted Fire a lot. You already had really good tanks in Fire with King Mont and Rain. You have support options in Fire like Minwoo. You have a strong other mage in Classy Glassy. You have Setia. Fire's got a lot. Fire's got a lot going for it. It feels a lot better now than it did in January. So I'm going to bump it up to B. Great job. Like, man, I can't believe one vision card and one unit changed Fire this much in my opinion. But that's how I feel about it. Next up is Water. Now, Water was the second worst element in my tier list back in January. I'm actually going to bump it up a whole tier. I think Water jumped up to A. Heck, Water might be better. It's hard to compare water to lightning because this fight is very, very one-sided in lightning's favor. But water always had a lot going for it. You have great support characters in water. You have great mages in water. You have Titus, who's one of the top-end PvE units in water. Like, water was already a great PvE element. What was it missing? It was missing a tank. Like, water was just missing somebody who was a real tank. And then Celis came out. Hello, we now have a great water tank. If you've pulled Celis and you want to be a water player, I think you're feeling very, very good about where you stand. Do you want a missile team? I've seen a lot of good results from like Celis, Lara Croft, who I skipped, and I kind of maybe regret skipping a little bit, plus Winter Victoria. That team's awesome. Water's awesome. Like, water improved so much with the tank. I love water now. It's a lot of fun. A tier. Okay, Dark. Now, I had Dark in A, in between Lightning and Earth. And I think Dark, man, I still feel like Dark is real good. I think nobody's playing Dark right now, or not a lot of people are playing Dark right now because it's kind of old. Like, I think people are a little sick of playing Black Rose, Helena, Dwayne something. But let me tell you something about Black Rose, Helena, Dwayne something. It's real good. Also, Black Rose Helena's vision card, that agility vision card that everybody's slotting into mixed element teams, gives Dark a bunch of accuracy, which makes it pretty decent into evasion teams. I think Dark is still a bottom of A tier element. Like, I still think it's slightly stronger than Fire and Earth in our current version of the game. I think it's going to see a bit of a comeback too. Like, every time I see like a Golbez, Black Rose, Helena, Dwayne team, it outperforms what I think is going to outperform. And I think Dark is still good enough to be an A tier, especially when you consider it as a PvE element. Dark Slash is very, very good. Ruinstern, Regular Stern, Dwayne, Shadowlynx. Hello, Shadowlynx is in this element. PvE goddess herself. Anyway, there's that one. And then next we have Ice. Okay, previously, Ice was top of B tier in my opinion. Ooh man, this is tough because I think it stays top of B tier for me. Dark Odin just came out. Dark Odin just dropped. And like, here's the thing. I don't know just how much of an impact that plus its global buff is going to have on the Ice element. It feels like it might boost it more than I'm giving it credit for boosting it. I'm still going to put Ice in like top of B, top of like the good tier. I think it's up there with Fire. Like, I think to compare Ice and Fire again is tough because it's a very one-sided fight if you were to fight them against each other. But I do still think I'm going to give the edge to Ice. Ice PvE is great, right? You have a lot of slash chaining units in there. It has access to 100%. Gilgamesh is always somehow like critically undervalued. People just sleep on Gilgamesh until somebody comes up with a good build for him, and then he's out there just slapping people down with his like AoE Kotetsu moves. So I'm going to slot Ice into B, top of B, and that's how I think the individual elements shake out in order. I'm going to go Light, Wind, Lightning, Water, Dark, Ice, Fire, Earth. But like, if there's one thing I really want you to take away from this part of the video, they're all at least good. They're all at least good, and this is just my opinion. Your account is going to be much different than this. Like, if you haven't invested into wind units, wind on your account might be all the way down here because you don't have any wind. So it's going to be different based on what you have, but I have most everything, so that's where I'm going to rank it right there. Now, we got this rainbow down here. And when I'm talking about the rainbow, I want to bring sub vision card slots into the spotlight here. Because one thing sub VC slots have done is elevated the use of our older rainbow vision cards. I mean cards like Typhoon here that give any element wearing it magic attack up and accuracy up. Doesn't matter what element you are, this is a good vision card for you. And if your vision card can affect any element, it's a lot easier to slot in a mixed element team. So I do think rainbow teams have been elevated by the changes in the game because it's just easier to spread some stats around now, and that's really nice. Now, I want to say a couple things here. One, I still think that rainbow teams are not as good as mono element teams in almost every situation. And I think the evidence for that is pretty clear, right? Like if you're running, let's go look at a unit. Like if we jump into the game here, and we scope out like, oh, I don't know, Golbez. If you have Golbez on your team, he has a master ability, and all of our new units have this. Most of our older units have this at this point, and his master ability has this in it. Dark unit allies max HP plus 10%, dark attack plus 15. That means if you have 3 UR dark element units in your group that have this master ability, you're getting essentially a whole nother vision card for your group that's dark units max HP up 30%, dark attack up 45. That's really good. That's really, really good. So any 3 units that are combined of the same element, or any 5 for PvE that are all enhancing each other like this, you can't go wrong there. You just can't go wrong, and stacking those is just so powerful. And if you're running a mono element team, the newer vision cards that come into the game give you a bunch of boost, you know, because they all look like this basically, where it's like fire units get this, fire units get that, etc. But with the ability to use 6 or 10 vision cards now, many people are finding I don't have 10 elemental vision cards. Like, it's really hard to have 10 vision cards of the same element that all work together nicely. So people are heading back in time here to pre-first anniversary and being like, well, I can get attack from Ifrit. And then if you're slotting Ifrit in, you're like, well, that attack applies to everybody. Maybe my comp would be better if I mixed in a Ruin Surd for some slashing chains instead of a lower priority other element unit. So mixing elements is good now. It's better than it was pre the updates, but where are we going to put it on the tier list? That's the question here. I think it is good, but I think it is the bottom of good. I do still think every mono element team is going to be better than Rainbow in an ideal situation, but remember, we are talking about your account a lot of times, and especially if you're a new player. Look, if you're a new player, Rainbow's like up here. Like, you should still probably play mono light if you can, because it's better than everything. But if you're brand new, Rainbow's obviously going to be your best thing, because you're going to be pinched for elemental materials. So you should do the thing where you like focus on building a tank, build a support, build some slash chainers, build some mages, stuff like that. And then, you know, pick your favorite units and maybe focus in on that element, because you can play any element in the game, in my opinion. And Rainbow will start to kind of fall to the side for you at that point, but that could be months down the line for a lot of people. I'm making this tier list from a, if you had everything perspective, and a lot of people don't. So there we go. That's my elemental tier list video. Let me know how you feel about it. Like, if you would have rated Earth maybe above Fire and Ice. I've refilmed this video like 5 times now because I disagreed with my placements, but this is my favorite version yet. I think Light dominates it. I think it's followed up by those A tier ones, and then the B tier ones are just a little bit behind. So there you go, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.